Howdy folks, this is Mackie with Mackie Red Horsemanship. This is Henna's probably the last video I'll shoot of her being here. She's going to be heading home in a few days. So it's kind of a culmination of all the things that we've been kind of working on. And this way her owner will have a record of it, and we'll be able to go back and to review it. I shot some video of her about 4 or 5 days ago, but something happened with my camera. It didn't show up too good, but she made really good progress with this flag. It eventually let me rub her around with this flag. She's still nervous about it, don't get me wrong, but she's coming around to accepting it, and that's good. I got my cup of coffee here, and we'll walk you through this deal. When Henna first came, she didn't know how to lunge, and seemed like all she knew how to do was go backwards. But she's got good forward motion now. She moves easy. She moves with a loose rein. The flag sometimes will get her, like I said, spun up a little bit, and she'll pull on me. But it's pretty unusual that we're having much trouble nowadays. And so right now she's just lunging. You'll notice a big long loose lead rope, which is what I look for. That means she's not pulling on me, she's working with me. She really wants to get along, and she's trying really hard to do the right thing. And we'll amp things up here a little bit as we go along. And you'll see her get a little excited. Coming up here, you can see the SIR signal hanging in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, and she's going to wear that today. Now, a week ago when I put it on her, she didn't have any problems at all. She had no issues at all. But you'll see that she's gonna have a little issues with it this time around. And she does pretty good with the flag until I get back to her hindquarters, and then she gets a little jumpy, a little nervous, and has to leave, and that's all right. It's all right. She's got to go. That's okay. But you watch her. She sure looks at it, pays attention to it. And there she let me rub her on her hindquarters, and we'll ask her to move out. So these are things that you can do with your horse. Now, if you've never introduced your horse to the flag, the last thing I want you to do is to go outside, catch your horse, and stick a flag in his face, because you might get your head knocked off. So you wanna introduce the flag to your horse slowly. Be gentle about it. Don't be in a big hurry. We just got back from the Cowboy Symposium in Ruidoso, New Mexico, and that's really what I harped on a lot, was just taking your time. No matter what it is that you're doing, just take your time. And we're going to work on the other side here, because that's all we got is time. And if you have the privilege or opportunity to work with your horse or mule, it's a blessing, because some of us didn't get to do it for a while because we were broke up, and there's still others who are never going to be able to do it again because they just aren't with us. So we're going to take our time with everything that we do. And as you can see, Henna doesn't like it much, and that's okay. She doesn't have to like it. She just has to learn to get along with it, to learn to trust me. People call this desensitizing your horse, and I don't like the term. I don't use it, because to me it's really teaching the horse to trust me as her leader, and that no matter what happens, no matter what I'm doing or what's going on around her, I'm not going to hurt her. And sometimes that just takes a horse a little while to learn that, to figure that out. Remember, we were having trouble leading before, but now she comes off the pressure of the lead rope pretty good. And I'm going to start with the rope, flipping it up over, and you'll notice I start with just a little piece of rope, and then I let the rope get bigger and bigger and bigger, and just getting her used to that idea. Someday Somebody's going to toss the saddle over when she gets to be about 2 or 3. And I just want to help her get ready for that. You'll see how I flip the rope around her, and then I'm rubbing that where that cinch is going to go, or that surcingle is going to go here in a little bit, putting pressure on it, taking it away, just so she can feel that and know that she doesn't have to be afraid of it. And then what I'm doing now is I'm trying to flip this rope between her legs, and the wind is blowing it a little bit, and it's giving me a bit of a fit. But what I want to do is start working with her back legs, with her front legs, and get her used to the idea of somebody rubbing it. Now, if this is your first time doing this and you get your rope between your horse's legs, you want to be real careful when you stick your head down there to pick up that rope that you don't get it kicked off. Go slow, take your time, and as you can see, then I just rub the rope up and down her leg, and now I'm going to ask her to pick up her leg and hold it for me, and then I'll sit it down on the ground. I'm not going to let her do that. I'm going to sit it down when she relaxes. And I rub her, tell her what a good girl she is. So this is a great way to get your horse used to having its feet picked up. Your farrier is going to absolutely love you if you'll take the time to do this. And she's been trimmed before, and her owner says that she has little or no trouble with that, but that doesn't mean that she wouldn't kick me. So we're going to work on that a little bit. Now we're going to work on her front foot, and it's the same process. Just let the rope run up and down her leg. One of the things I see that happens that's a problem is people will have the lead rope too short to the horse's head, and whenever they move that rope around, it pulls on the horse's head, and they wonder why the horse is moving around. So it's the same deal. I want her to pick up her front foot, and when she'll just relax it, then I'll set it down on the ground. I do the sitting down. She doesn't do it. And like I said, we're just going to chip away at this just a little at a time. Now we're moving to the left-hand side, or her off side, if you will, right-hand side, I guess. Her off side is we would call it. And we're going to do the same thing here. Flip the rope over her back, and then we're going to try to get it between her legs so that we can work on her hind legs. Trying to get her a little closer here with their legs apart. Makes it a little bit easier for me to flip that rope between her legs. And since my wreck bending over is a little tough, so I really go slow when I bend over, because it's not all that easy for me these days. But you see, she jumped a little bit when we got that rope up between her leg. We're going to hold it, try to hold it until she relaxes, and we put it down. We set it down on the ground for her. And the more you do this with your horse, the easier your horse is going to get about his or her feet. You'll see she picks it up, snaps it up there, but when she relaxes, we set it back down on the ground. We're going to work on her front feet, same as we did the other side. And if something happens, to scare your horse, and the horse should really pull away, don't worry about it. Just let her go. You can always catch her up and do it again. So here's a surcingle, and she's worn this before. Matter of fact, the first time she wore it, she just walked off and she didn't have a lick of trouble. But that's not going to be the same today. And that's why I tell people, when you're starting colts, don't expect them to act the same way they did the day before. They may have done real good and not had any trouble, but she's fixing to jump about 4 feet off the ground. So I'm snugging that up a little bit, and then I'm going to ask her to back up so I can get out of the way. And then there she goes. And I try to hang on with the lead rope. I don't want her to just, because she's bucking pretty much blindly here. And if I let her go, she'd probably just go crashing into the rail. And I don't want that to happen, so I just try to hold on to her and keep her from running into anything. And she settles down here in a minute. And so that's good. It's like I tell people, horses typically aren't afraid of what's on their back. What they're afraid of is that pressure they feel when they feel like they're being squeezed or compressed in their girth area. And that's what scares them. And that's why I use a surcingle first for the first saddles or two. Because I don't have to worry about that surcingle rolling underneath her. It just doesn't matter. There are no stirrups on it, obviously, and there's no way that the surcingle can hurt her if she should decide that she wanted to try and buck it off, which she did. And you'll notice I slipped gloves on while you weren't looking, and that's because I've had my hands fried by this little girl. She pulls hard. And a lot of people say, well, you're not much of a trainer if you got to wear gloves. Well, that could be true, but sometimes a guy's got to hang on, and I get my hands burnt up pretty easy. So we're just going to ask her to lunge around with the surcingle on for a little bit, and then we're going to go back to the flag and getting that, getting her a little more used to that. Like I said, she's going to go home pretty soon, just a couple days, and I really want her to be able to not give her owner any trouble when it comes to lunging, and she's doing really well. You'll see there's a lot of slack in that lead rope when she comes around, and she's learning to stop well with the cue that I give her. I look at her hind end, and she stops pretty good. Gets a little confused, so we'll just stop, slow down, start again. Not that big a deal. It's not the end of the world. And that's what I tell folks. They're just horses, and they're learning a whole new thing. And it's up to you and me to do the best we can to help them through that. You see her licking and chewing. So I'm gonna rub on her a little bit. Tell her she's a good girl. Let her rest. Bucking's no fun for a horse, and they'd rather not do it because it takes a lot. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of work. So once they figure out that surcingle is not going to kill them, but they'll usually just settle right down and begin to accept it. You can see she doesn't like me on that right hand side, so I'm going to go over there and spend a little extra time just getting her used to me being on that side. Again, Hannah's only a little over a year old, not even quite 2. She's a big girl already, and she's really put together well. You can see she's got a big motor in the back, and we have a lot of hopes for her down the road. My job is just to make sure she gets a good start and learns how to get along in a two-legged world. So we'll start with this flag again. Want her to get used to that. I normally don't start on the face, but this was the only place that she would give me initially when we started. It's the only place that she was comfortable with, and then I could slide my flag down. And I'm putting it on the ground and picking it up and putting it on her so that she's not afraid of that movement. If somebody walks up to her, I don't want her to be afraid. She does get nervous about being rubbed on the hind end here in a little bit, and you can tell she's jumpy about it. And it's a windy day, which doesn't help anything, or helps something out a lot. It just depends on how you look at it. For me, I love a windy day when I'm doing this because I don't have to work so hard with that flag. I can let the wind kind of do the work for me. But every time she tries to run away, I'm trying to tap her on the hind end to remind her she doesn't have to run away. And she cuts pretty close to me, and I'm not really too worried about her kicking me, but this is the time when a horse would subspass you that they could cow kick you when they went by. So we're just trying to get her to settle down, and she'll accept that there. Go back to something she knows, and I'll rub her with it. But you can see the wind blowing that flag around pretty good. And so we'll go down this side. So boy, she sure watches it, doesn't she? And again, I'm trying to teach this little horse to trust me, not to worry. Nothing's going to happen to her. I'm not going to let a thing happen to her. Excuse me. I just want her to get used to things being around her and learning to move off my cues. This is kind of a long video, but I didn't want to cut any of it. I'm hoping that it'll all fit and they'll let me get it up there. Just take our time. You can see her licking and chewing from time to time. She's trying to figure it out, but it makes a noise. It's a bit scary. Let her rest here a little bit. You want to be careful of doing this with a young horse, that you don't act, that you're not too far in front of them. The tendency is to jump straight forward when they get scared, and so you want to be off to the side a little bit. I should be off a little bit more than I am there, but I'm just taking what she'll give me right now. And just get her used to this. It's going to pay dividends down the road when they go to do something she's never seen before. Her first reaction isn't going to be to run off to the back of the place. She'll stand for it and at least tolerate it because she knows nobody's going to hurt her. I picked my hand up because she was kind of pushing on me there, and I don't want her to run into me. I can't afford it. I keep bringing her up here closer to the camera so that you guys can kind of see what's going on. You can tell she's nervous. If you watch her ears, she'll tell you that she's really paying attention to that stuff. She real nervous about it, and you've got to be paying attention to what your horse is trying to tell you so that you don't get yourself hurt. She's telling me she doesn't like this on her back end, but we're going to keep doing this until she says, okay, you can do it, because I don't want to have to work anymore. And as you can see, she's not sweaty or anything like that. We haven't beat her down. We're trying to just get her to understand that she can relax. She doesn't have to worry about this flag. She bumps into the rail there, which makes the camera jump. So she decided she couldn't stand there, so what I thought I'd do is just let her lunge around, and I pick the flag up, drag it on the ground, and she gets real nervous about it, and you can tell that by the lead rope gets tight. She starts pulling me further and further away from the camera toward the other end of the round pen. And my job is to just keep going until she can relax. And she will. Eventually she begins to settle down, and we'll get closer and closer You'll see me cheating up on the lead rope with my hands, which gives me a little slack. I'll cheat up with my left hand and take in about 2 foot of that lead rope, getting closer and closer, and moving the flag around so that she becomes comfortable with it. So she learns to trust that if there's anything flying around out there, not to get freaked. What I want her to do is just to relax and wait for me for the answer. And you'll see when I pick it up off the ground, it really gets wound up. And now it takes 2 hands for me to hold on to her. And I just keep my flag just back behind her, moving a little bit. And pretty soon she'll come around. She'll begin to settle down a little bit. But sometimes a horse has to be afraid to realize they don't have to be afraid anymore. And that just takes time. And you've got to be willing to go the distance. And if you're physically not able to do that, then you need to get somebody to give you a hand. Send them off to a trainer, somebody that can get this stuff done. I won't ride a horse that can't tolerate a flag being on. I just won't do it because it's too dangerous. Anything, my hat blows off, or anything, my wild rag comes undone and flies off my neck. I don't want them going to the moon. And this is how you get them prepared for those things, so that when I get up in that saddle, I'm fairly confident that she has some skill and won't be scared half to death should something terrible like my hat fly off. And so you'll notice she's beginning to slow down. She's not pulling quite as hard all the time. I'm cheating in a little bit. There I grab 2 feet of lead rope, excuse me, and just try to get her so I can get closer and closer without her being all freaked out. Just getting closer and closer. Then let her rest. But while she's resting, I'm going to be working with this flag. I'm going to be showing her that she doesn't have to be afraid of it. And I'm not going to go away. I'm going to keep working, and we're going to keep doing what we're doing. And that she can learn to tolerate it. And she gets better. You just always want to remember that these are scary things for a horse. They've never experienced it. They don't know what it is. And they oftentimes have a very, very hard time with what's going on. So as you can see, she still doesn't really care much for that flag, and that's okay. And you'll notice that I'm starting to stay more and more out of the way, so as not to get run over. So here I'm going to try just to keep the flag close to her and try to keep up with her a little bit. Usually this comes along as the driving exercise, but she's so spun up about this deal that it's hard to get her to accept the fact. Her to try to canter in this small circle is really difficult. So pretty soon she's going to go to a trot, and she'll start to get used to it little by little. So I tell people it always looks ugly before it gets pretty. And you saw she was striking out there with her hind feet after that flag, trying to get rid of it. Now when she comes around, she gets too close, I'm gonna give her a little discipline, just swatting her with that bag like that. She knows that that's not acceptable. Keep that away from me. And so you can send her, you can see why I wear the gloves, because she can really pull the rope through your hands. If you don't got some protection, your hands are going to look like hamburgers. So then we go back to putting it on the ground, put it back on her. Just slow it down a little bit so she can see it's not going to hurt her. She can relax. And she'll go home, let's see, she'll probably go home here in just a few days. So we're just going to continue to work at this, getting her used to the flag for the next few days, so that when she goes home, she'll have this skill kind of halfway down and not be quite so anxious or worried about it. She'll be a lot better today when we start to work with her than she was yesterday. And that's just because she's had time to sleep on it and realizes that, you know, it's not that big a deal. And I don't have to be so worried. Nobody's going to hurt me. But we have to teach them that these things are going to happen in their lives, or they're going to hurt us. And they won't mean to. You know, they're not being mean or anything like that. They're just being horses. And horses sometimes can be scary animals. Be afraid of a lot of things. That's how they've survived for, you know, millennia, is because of their ability to get away from danger. So it's hardwired in them that we're never going to get rid of it. Inside every domestic horse lives a wild animal. And what we're hoping to do is teach them to control their emotions so that they don't get hurt and so that they don't hurt somebody in the course of their lives. Kathy and I had a horse that was in the Chicago area that we went and spent some time with, who had broken the arms of 2 different grooms in his life. His name was Frenchie when we met him. And I started this very same process with him. He was a show jumping horse, and I started this very same process with him. And he learned to control his emotions, to settle down, and he went on to be a good horse and make them some money jumping. So it takes time, and it's worth the effort. It really is worth the effort. And I know this looks boring to everybody, but to the folks who are really paying attention, they can see the real value of this. And it's those kinds of people that see what you do, and they see beyond what you're doing and how that's going to help the horse down the road. And that's what I'm looking for, is for people to be able to see the value. So we're just getting her closer here to the camera so that you guys can see her, and just getting her to trust. Nobody's going to hurt her. She won't be ridden for probably another year, so I'm not going to worry too much about the surcingle for the rest of the time. For the rest of the time that she's here. But after this was over, I loaded her in the trailer with the surcingle on, and then she stood tied with Charlie and Mona for the rest of the afternoon, and teaching her patience. These little babies don't come with patience. They got to learn patience, and tying your horse to a good, safe place, a good solid rail, something that's not going to come apart and chase them down the road. I've seen people tie their horses to trees. They thought their horse couldn't pull over, you know, while they jerk that tree plumb out of the ground and it chases them down the road. So make sure you have a good, safe place. Learn the bank robbers knot. It's on my videos too. You'll be able to find it there someplace on the Facebook page or on my website, or it's around there someplace. I got a YouTube channel too now, so I'm in. And I'm just tightening up the surcingle one notch, and then I decide to get it straight and try tightening up again and see what kind of response I get this time. And this time she's fine. She doesn't have any trouble with it all. She's used to it. She knows what it is now. She knows it's not going to hurt her. And so she just trots around. She doesn't come unglued. She's not all wound up. You can see she's real relaxed about it. You can see the saddle that's there in that corner. I was going to put that saddle on her today, but when I saw how she reacted to the surcingle, I chose not to do that. I'm teaching her to flex her head back to the side. She's doing pretty good at that. We just chip away at those kind of things. Don't expect your horse to do that perfectly the first day or the first 2 days, but just chip away. Ask your horse to look back, and when he or she does, then you just want to rub their head, tell them what a great job they did. And that's teaching her to give to that forward pressure or that side pressure without having to move her feet. If when you're doing this, your horse moves her feet, just hold the pressure you have and walk in a circle with her. But you'll see I'm barely touching that. I don't want to jerk her head around. Just take your time, let her give you what she'll give you, and be happy with that. And just chip away with that over the course of the time that your horse, that you're working with your horse, or if you're training a horse for the time that horse is there. This is an important skill, and one that they're really going to need once we start riding them. We need to be able to get them to bring their heads around and relax. So I'm going to take her halter off. Just going to let her walk around with the surcingle on her own. And she's a pacer. She has a lot of energy. And of course, when I walk out of the round pen, all she does is walk. She just walks and walks and walks. That's part of who she is, thoroughbred in her. And just got a lot of energy. And but I wanted her to be free of me's, because oftentimes when a human being is in there, they act differently than when we're not in there. And so I just went and got in a chair and like you right now, just sat and watched her walk around and just relax. And that's kind of how I like to finish each session if it's possible. In the round pen, I like it to be them being just loose, so they can just be on their own. They can think about what's happened and what they've gone through, and they can just kind of relax. And if I'm in the arena and we've been lunging, then I want her to have the opportunity to just stand there and relax for a little while, not have to worry about doing something all the time, and just let her begin to just cool down a little bit before I loaded her in the trailer. Like I said earlier, and if you go back and look at the earlier videos of Henna, when she first got here, she was trying to kill me. I mean, she didn't want any part of the program. I'm not sure if I can't remember if I put the pictures of my hands up on the web somewhere, but she had turned my hands into hamburger. It normally takes me 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get a horse in a trailer, and it took an hour to convince Henna that being in that trailer was better than being outside that trailer. So she's been a challenge from the beginning, but her owner told me that that's kind of her MO. That's kind of who she is. She tends to be the dominant one there in their herd of horses, and kind of gets her way whenever she wants it. And she's learning here that in a two-legged world she can't do that. She can't live like that because she's going to hurt somebody or she's going to get herself hurt. But she's come along really, really well, and I'm looking forward to seeing her career. I hope in another year or so that they bring her back and I get the chance to get her started under saddle, because she really has turned in to a sweetie. She really has. So get a hold of us if there's anything that we can do for you, and we'll see you down the trail.